I'm here with Jay Corbin, and we're here to talk to you about voting in the February primaries.
Thanks.
Hi, Jay.
Hi.
Welcome. Welcome. So there's quite a bit of information to come across here.
A little bit, yes.
Can you give us some guidelines that we can go through?
Well, first of all, some of the things I'll talk about, I'll always reference that you can get information, and I'm going to tell you about a site, www.nashuanewhampshire.gov.
Okay.
And this is a great place to go to find out a lot of the information you're going to need to prepare yourself to go to the polls during a primary.
Okay.
If you go to that site, select your government, select city clerk's office, then select elections.
Okay.
You're going to find information about where the certain wards in Nashua you voted wards. You're going to find out information where the wards are. You can reference your street. It'll tell you exactly where you go to vote. There is a link that will get you to the Secretary of State's office. Now, the Secretary of State's office actually maintain a checklist that you have when you go to vote. When you go into the check-in table, that list is maintained by the Secretary of State's office. So it has your name, your address. It will tell the check-in person whether you're registered as a Republican, a Democrat, or undeclared.
Okay.
This is very important during the primary. During a general election, not so much. So this list cannot be changed at that particular time. So it's important that if you reference that site, put in your name and your information, it will come up exactly how you voted the last time, where you voted, and how you're declared.
Oh, wow.
So
it keeps it from the previous voting cycle.
It could be a big time saver.
Okay.
First of all, you may not find out you're even registered. And, so you can, there'll be time, I'll tell you about, where to go to get registered. Actually, you can go to City Hall to get registered right up until actually this Saturday.
Saturday,
January 30th, yes.
And City Hall will be open on Saturday for that?
City Clerk's office, yes.
Great.
Go in the back of City Hall, and the City Clerk's office is just off to the left.
Oh, that's great news. I didn't know that. Lots of things here. So now, in Nashua, you said that there are wards.
Correct.
How would you determine, would that be where you would determine what ward you're in, and will that be able to tell you where your polling station is for you to go?
Yes, it's based on where you live. The city is split up into 9 wards. It can, if you looked on a map, it can be confusing because certain roads, particularly like Amherst Street.
Right, that's such a long road.
It's a long road. It's probably split between 3 or 4 different roads. And some of the wards are one side of the street and some are on the other side, depending on what side of the street you're on. So it's good information to have to know you're going to the right ward. So if you show up at the polling place and you give the check-in person your name and they say, "I'm sorry, sir, you're not on the list," probably a pretty good chance you're in the wrong place, which means now you're going to have to, get out of line and go somewhere else. Some elections, the turnout is pretty light.
Okay.
So it's not a big deal. You may be the only person in line. But a presidential primary election, the turnout tends to be kind of heavy. Right. So you might be waiting in line 10 minutes before you get to the check-in table, only to find out you're not registered or you're in the wrong ward or
may have to drive to another part of the city.
Correct.
Which is probably not necessarily the easiest if you're going after work, so you're dealing with rush hour traffic.
Correct.
So these are all things that you can find out ahead of time.
Yes, before you go.
Oh,
correct.
Great.
Yeah.
So once you know this information of where you need to go, you have to determine if you are registered.
Correct.
So what does that...
I guess I had, a little outline here where it just says to make your voting experience as easy as possible.
Okay.
All right. First, like we said, make sure you're registered. One easy way to do it is go to the site we just referenced.
Okay.
You can also call City Hall. They may be able to tell you as well. More than likely. Great. They're very busy at this time, but I'm sure they'll help you out. Secondly, ask the question how you are registered, as a Democrat, Republican, or as undeclared. That information, once again, is important during a primary election. Third, make sure you know where you vote, which is what we were talking about.
Right, where your polling station is.
Every ward has a polling station.
Okay.
Okay. Once again, that city clerk's website has a list of the polling stations,
Great.
the wards, and where you vote. You reference the Secretary of State's list. It will tell you where you voted the last time. So the final thing is make sure you have a photo ID.
Yeah, you don't want...
Everybody seems to, not everybody, I mean, it seems like 90% of the people are A-OK with just presenting a photo ID. Driver's license is the most preferred thing, but a military ID, some student IDs are acceptable. By having that, we have a picture to match with your face, we have an address to match with the books, and that makes everything accurate, legal, and acceptable. If you don't have a photo ID,
Okay.
now your process may not be as easy as possible.
Sure.
It's not difficult, but it can be
Might
taken.
take it a little longer.
It can be taken, yes, it'll take a
Okay.
little longer. It'll be another line you have to get in.
Okay.
And you have to fill out what they call a CAV form, which is a challenged voter affidavit.
Okay.
Right? And this is a form, simply states, the individual will sign it saying, this is who I am, this is where I live, and they sign off on it.
Oh, okay.
Okay? That affidavit goes to the Secretary of State's office,
Okay.
and they review it. The new wrinkle that was put in a few elections ago, and a lot of people who will vote in the primary probably haven't voted in the last few elections.
Right.
If they do not have an ID, they fill out that challenged voter affidavit. We take their picture.
Okay.
It's done with a small digital camera. There's no memory in it, and it produces the picture instantly, almost like a Polaroid would.
Oh, okay.
All right? And that picture gets stapled to the affidavit, and once again, that gets sent up to the Secretary of State's
Oh,
office.
okay. And
So-
that and the people who are at the counter or the tables set up in the polling station, they'll be able to walk you through that process fairly easily. Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yes.
That's great. So now we're at the polls. We've received the ballot that we need to get to go into our polling booth to make our vote.
Okay.
What do we do next?
All right.
We vote. But there's a lot of different ways that these are set up. I mean, they're pretty secure and pretty secluded.
Okay. First of all, at the polls, one thing, and again, elections with a high turnout, we have a problem with this. People love to support their candidate,
Right.
and they're going to come in with buttons on and banners and T-shirts. These things are not allowed inside the polling place.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's considered campaigning, and
Oh, okay. Even just wearing a T-shirt or a button is
that
considered
says
that has
the
your president,
right.
your candidate
Correct.
on it.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, there should be no one with that, and they'll be asked to turn the T-shirt inside out, cover it up, take the
Okay.
button off, that type of thing. I believe in Nashua, it's no campaigning within 100 feet of the polling place, and we do have a sign outside that prevents that from happening.
Oh,
and
good,
that's
yeah.
why when you walk up to, particularly like most of the polling places, you'll see the candidates grouped together with their signs.
Right. Right.
That's campaigning. That's fine. Once you pass that point, no campaigning.
Okay.
It's all neutral.
Oh,
Okay?
that's good.
We want everybody to make their own personal decision when they get in there. We don't want anybody being pushed, persuaded, influenced by anybody else. It's your voting place. You should be left alone. Okay.
Oh, good.
You can have personal notes. Take them into the booth with you.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Okay.
great to know because sometimes there's bills that you might know only a little bit about, or you might have a little extra information about that
Correct.
You're not sure you're going to remember it at the time when you're filling in your spot.
Correct.
So that's good to know that you can have a
Correct.
little note there with you.
Some people have a list of candidates that they want to put down, that they know they want to vote for, and that's just their reminder.
That's great.
Yes, in the booth, use it. When you're done, take it with you.
Right. Yes.
Do not leave it in the
Don't
booth
leave it in the booth.
for the next person to follow. So,
All right.
okay, when you get to the polls, we've already said no campaign buttons, nothing like that. You get inside the building, there will be a check-in table. It's usually clear to see the check-in table because there'll be people sitting there and there'll be letters on these little posts marking.
Okay.
Those letters represent the first initial of your last name. Just go to that line.
So it's alphabetical.
It's alphabetical, correct. Go to that line. They're going to ask you for an ID. They're going to ask you for your name. They're going to ask you to state your name first and last. They're supposed to repeat it, okay? And I believe you say yes, and then they will check you off. If you are undeclared, registered as an undeclared voter, they will ask you, what ballot would you like, Republican or Democrat? If you are registered as a Democrat, you have no choice. You get a Democratic ballot. If you're registered as a Republican, you will get the Republican ballot. A lot of people don't understand that. There are Democrats that want to vote Republican sometimes, and they can't. There are Republicans that want to vote Democrat, and they can't. And the only time you have the option is when you are undeclared. Registered as undeclared.
Okay.
Correct.
So then you get the choice.
You get the choice.
It really puts it in your own hands.
Right. And once again, that photo ID, I want to stress, please have a photo ID.
That just makes it easier for the clerk that's at the table helping you.
Absolutely.
Help you better.
Absolutely. And like
Okay.
I said, if you waited in line, and we go back to what we started this with, information. Have the information. If you waited in line to vote Democratic and you're a registered Republican,
Sure.
save your time. You can still vote, but you'll be voting Republican.
Sure.
So.
Sure. So now, once you've decided, you're at the poll, you're undeclared, and you've decided, say, you wanted to take a Republican ballot.
Correct.
But you didn't want to stay registered as a Republican. What can you do to go back to change your
Good question.
status to undeclared?
Good question. Because the minute
Because
you...
maybe your candidate didn't win the primary and you want to vote for the other guy, Or gal,
It's a
I
scary
suppose I
thing
should say
because
now.
it's a scary thing because the minute you take that ballot, you become part of that party.
Right.
I want to vote Republican, now I'm a Republican. I want to vote Democrat, now I'm a Democrat. After you've voted and put your ballot in the machine, there will be a table set up and it will be marked clearly, return to undeclared. We have a book right there at the polls. We take your name down, write your name down, you sign it, and once it's signed, it says you're returning back to undeclared.
Okay. So it's actually pretty easy. There's no fear at all. No worries.
No fear at all. The only complication is that some people at a previous primary forgot to go back to undeclared. And they don't realize they're registered in one of those parties.
Okay.
So that causes confusion at the check-in table. And once again, we can't change it there.
Right.
And once, we can't even change it on that day. So it's...
Sure. So...
It's good to be prepared before you go.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, there's other little bits here about how to fill out the ballot.
Correct.
So that's something that, there was that issue a few presidential elections ago. So we want to make sure they're filling out the ballot correctly so that there's no errors or no misinterpretations or what have you.
Correct. I mean, basically the way these ballots work is you fill in a circle and then you put the ballot through a machine and the machine reads where you've filled in the circle.
Okay.
The instructions are when you enter the poll, there's always stuff pasted or stuck taped to the wall. And that is information for you how to fill out the ballots. It's information on, there's sample ballots up there who's running. There's information on voter laws.
Okay.
The instructions are also in the polling booth. Fill in the circle. There's pens supplied for you in the voting booths to fill in the circles. Some people use check marks, continue to put a check mark in. Some people continue to put an X in.
Don't do that.
It is, you know, it's always a question in my mind at the end of the night whether those votes got counted or not.
Right.
We have to work under the assumption they did because they went through and they were in the I don't want to get too crazy here, but we'll talk a little bit about write-in votes as well.
Sure.
The ballot box actually has 2 compartments in the back. And when you put a ballot in there with just the circles filled in, it goes to one side of the box. If you decide you don't like a particular candidate and you want to write in your own candidate, there is a circle next to that spot where it says write in. You fill in that circle like you would voting for a regular candidate.
Sure.
Then you write the name of the individual you want to vote for.
And the machine automatically, when you put that in and it sucks it in,
It'll separate
it'll
it.
separate it.
Correct. That way there.
Technology is so awesome.
Well, at the end of the night, it makes it a lot easier because we know all the write-ins are on one side.
Right.
And we can take those out, and at 8 o'clock, when the polls close, we start processing those and counting write-in votes.
Okay.
So it's important you fill in a circle, though, because if you don't fill in a circle, your write-in candidate, your write-in vote may get put in with the regular votes. And granted, we do count those at the end of the night, meaning we just count the ballots, but it may be missed.
Yeah.
If there's a write-in in there.
I mean, if you're at
it shouldn't be in that side.
board that has, 4,000 or 5,000 people in it, or I'm not sure if the numbers, but if you're at a ward that's very large, I mean, it
They're
could
close.
be
Yep.
easy to miss something like that. So it's very important for the voter to take that on personally.
Correct.
And make sure that they fill that out correctly.
Correct.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
And a lot of people, I think when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that you are passionate about voting.
I am. I have voted in every single local and presidential election and primary since I was 18, since I was allowed to vote.
No.
I grew up in a different state. Certainly, people were passionate then as well. In the late 80s and mid to late 80s, our world started to change drastically, and I wanted to be on the part that helped make it better. And I felt the only way to do that would be to vote. Because I didn't have it in me to run for office. That's not a job for everybody. But I could have my say in voting. Yeah. Voting at a local level, I feel, is very important because if you see changes that you want to see made, you take the time and you vote for your local governors, and you vote for your local mayors, and then you vote for your local representatives and senators. And they bring your thoughts and your wishes,
Correct.
Ideally, to Washington.
Correct.
And you start that little chain reaction.
Right.
And when I moved to New Hampshire, I found I was not alone in thinking like that, which was really, really great. So it's something that I am passionate about, that I feel that everybody should get involved in and learn about the election process. Learn, obviously, about the issues that not just affect you, but affect your neighbors. But a part of doing that is being responsible for your own.
Correct.
So.
Correct. And I guess part of this is, once again, get the right information. You want to be a responsible voter.
Absolutely.
You want to vote, be a responsible voter. Get the correct information when you go there so you know what's going to happen. Have a photo ID. When you fill out the ballot, fill it out properly.
Right.
When you go to write in a candidate, I hate to say this, but be serious. I mean, we have people, we see all kinds of names in write-ins.
Don't vote for Mickey Mouse.
That's Mickey gets a lot of votes. Donald Duck gets a lot of votes. Tom Brady gets a lot of votes. Bill Belichick gets a lot of votes. And it's
Gostkowski's not going to get a lot of votes this year, I'm afraid.
But it's amazing. I hate to say it, but I view it as kind of a waste. I mean, if
Absolutely.
you're gonna take the time to exercise the right to vote, try and do it properly.
Absolutely.
I mean, you have the right to do anything you want, but I mean,
Right.
doing it properly would be nice.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%, and again, it comes down to, how you personally feel. And if you don't take it upon yourself to learn the process of how to go to your poll, which ward is yours, and the basics.
Right.
The basics are so important, and I feel that not a lot of people know them. So this is great. This is great. And again, they can go to www.nashuanewhampshire.gov
Correct.
for any questions that they may have. And that's correct? Now, how late are most polling stations open to, or is it different per ward, or is it different per location?
Yes. Oh, it's not different per ward. In Nashua, the wards are open from 6 in the morning till 8 at night.
Okay.
So that gives you quite a range to vote. The certain towns, the times vary, and
Okay.
everybody would have to check.
So they'd have to look at their own local.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Usually the papers post it. I know the Telegraph does.
Oh, great. And if you are a resident of New Hampshire and for some reason you are homebound, whether you have a disability or what have you, are there ways to still be able to contact somebody to get help to get to a poll? Or is that something that they could contact this website or the city clerk's office to find information out?
There is, yes, absolutely. Absentee voters
Okay.
are not just people that are out of the country, out of the state, out of the town. There are people that are disabled. In Ward 6, where I am the moderator, there are possibly 3, 4 nursing homes that have people in them that are not capable of getting out to the polls. So we have a lot of absentee ballots from those addresses.
Okay.
They get processed during the election day, just like we would process a regular ballot. Again, we stress, follow the information that's given to you. There is a lot of information about absentee ballots on,
Great.
on that site. Follow the instructions. Make sure that everything is signed. There's 2 places they have to sign. If one signature is missing, we cannot
So make sure you
process
read
that vote.
everything.
Yes.
Cross your T's, dot your I's.
Yes.
Check everything. That's great.
It's not very complicated, but basically it's one page that says, I cannot vote because of this certain reason, and they sign that. And then the next one is an envelope that they put the ballot in, and that's inside another envelope saying, this is my vote, my name is so-and-so, and they have to sign that.
Okay. All right.
So that signature has to match the signature on that piece of paper.
Sure.
And if they don't sign that envelope, which happens sometimes,
Okay. Make
we
sure you sign it. You can't.
cannot count that ballot.
Okay. And so people who are homebound, disabled, people who are out of state, what about our servicemen and women who are serving overseas? Is it the
Same thing.
process? They just go to the website, they find the information where they need it to be, and then they follow
Correct.
the same procedure?
Correct.
Oh, so that's great. That's great. So even if they're serving overseas, they can still have a say,
Yes. Yes.
which is even better.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Jay, thank you so much for coming in and sharing this information with us. We
That's
really appreciate it.
Glad I could help.
We hope to see everybody at their local polling stations on February 9th.
And I hope this information helps you out and makes it easier for you.
It will, I'm sure of it. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.